Many of you have heard the story of the anime movie Grave of the Fireflies on my channel. Today's story is about a movie created by the same animation company, called The Red Turtle. The main feature of this film is that it is a silent film, meaning it has no dialogue. However, despite the lack of conversation, this movie portrays such real aspects of human life that it will make you reflect on your own life in a new way. I promise you, after watching this video, the value of your family in your life will increase many times over. This story will teach you to love your family even more. So, without further ado, let's dive into the main story of the movie. In the midst of a fierce storm at sea, we see a man struggling to save his life. The storm is so intense that the man gets swept away by a massive wave. The next morning, when he regains consciousness, he finds himself on an unknown island. He begins to observe his surroundings carefully. The island has a dense jungle, and the man is very afraid to enter the dense jungle. However, he has no other option, so without much thought, he ventures into the jungle. The jungle is filled with thick bamboo groves. He spots some water pooled in a place and runs to quench his thirst, and he drinks the water. Meanwhile, it starts to rain. The man climbs a high rock to get a better view of his surroundings, but as far as his eyes can see, there is only water. He cannot figure out how he will navigate this vast ocean or how he will return home. With a heart full of despair, he walks along the jungle path and suddenly comes across a freshwater pond. Seeing this pond alleviates some of his despair because, at least on this island, he has drinking water. There is also a fruit tree beside the pond. The man picked some fruit from the tree and ate them, as he was extremely hungry and tired. Afterward, he continued to explore the island. When he climbed a high hill and looked around, he saw a wooden box floating in the sea. He started descending the hill to retrieve the box, but he suddenly fell into a hole. It was a small cave. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't climb out. Then, he noticed the water inside the cave, which was coming from the sea. Taking a deep breath, he dove into the water and swam through the narrow path, emerging into the sea. This time he saved his life. He managed to retrieve the wooden box. However, when he opened it, he was very disappointed because there wasn't anything useful inside. With a heart full of disappointment, he started walking towards the jungle again. Suddenly, an idea struck the man. He thought that since there were so many bamboo trees in the jungle, he could use them to build a large raft and escape from the island. With this plan in mind, he began collecting bamboo. As he gathered bamboo, night falls. Exhausted, he lay down on the beach and saw some baby turtles slowly making their way into the sea. The next morning, he used the collected bamboo to build a small raft. Knowing he would be crossing a vast ocean, he also gathered some food from the jungle. Now he is fully prepared to leave the island. He then launched his raft into the sea and began his journey. However, after traveling a short distance, an unknown creature attacked his raft, and in the blink of an eye, the raft was completely destroyed. The man falls into the sea and tries to see what had struck his raft and caused it to break apart. However, he sees nothing around him. Filled with despair, he returns to the island. His morale is completely shattered, and he screams in anger and frustration. But he begins to gather bamboo from the jungle again, and this time, he built a bigger and stronger raft. When he sets out and after traveling a short distance, once again the unknown creature attacks the raft. This time, the man becomes frightened, and before he can understand what is happening, a powerful blow from the creature shatters the raft. He falls into the sea again and returns to the island in despair. The man loses all will to live. As daylight fades and night falls, he falls asleep in the jungle out of exhaustion. Suddenly, he wakes up to the sound of musical instruments. He sees some people playing the violin. When he approaches them, they suddenly disappear. In reality, the man driven by hunger, thirst and despair, has begun to hallucinate. However, despite so much disappointment and pain, the next day the man builds another raft. Taking the raft, he ventures out into the turbulent sea once again. This time, he carries a stick in their hand, because every time the creature broke his raft, now he wants to confront that creature. And then that creature strikes his raft again. The man sees a huge red turtle in front of him. The turtle looks at the man for a moment, and then it dives beneath the water. The man keeps searching all around for the turtle with the stick, as he understood that this turtle repeatedly broke his raft. Meanwhile, the turtle strikes the raft again, and this time, the raft breaks into pieces. The man falls into the sea and struggles to stay afloat. Just then, he sees the red turtle very close to him. Upon seeing it, he becomes very scared. However, the turtle does not harm the man but swims away from there. Once again, the man returns to the same desolate island. He vent his frustration towards his situation. Angrily he started throwing stones towards the sea. He then climbs up the mountain and shouts to release the pain inside him. And then the man sees that red tortoise emerging in the beach. Upon seeing it, he feels enraged. The man then strikes the tortoise on its head with a stick, and he flips it over so it can't return to the sea. The tortoise writhes in intense agony due to the severe pain. As daylight fades and night falls, the man collects bamboo from the jungle for making another raft, and the turtle is lying in same position. The next morning, beneath the intense sun, the tortoise still lies there. In a moment of pause during the man's bamboo gathering, his eyes turn towards the tortoise. He stares at the turtle for a while. He then heads to the sea to catch fish for his meal. Upon returning from fishing, he glances again at the tortoise. Flies are flying around the turtle. The man sits next to the turtle. The man feels sorry for it. A sense of guilt is also working in his mind. He gently touches the tortoise. Feeling disheartened, he sits a little away from the tortoise, still gazing in its direction. Late at night, the tortoise is heading towards the sky. The man is running desperately to catch the tortoise. Despite his efforts, he can't catch it. The tortoise disappears into the distant sky. That's when the man wakes up from their sleep, and we can understand he had a nightmare. Immediately, run to the seaside and come near the tortoise lying on the beach. He makes many attempts to straighten the tortoise, however, he can't straighten the heavy tortoise in any way. He then takes some water in a bamboo leaf from the sea and keeps pouring it into the tortoise's mouth, but even that doesn't bring any benefit. The frozen body of the turtle lies like that. For this pitiful condition of the tortoise, the man suffers and falls asleep right there. Late at night, suddenly the man wakes up with a cracking sound of the tortoise shell breaks. He sits up and carefully observes the tortoise. Suddenly, he gets up in shock. He is unable to believe his own eyes. Slowly, he approaches the tortoise, but what is this? The tortoise shell has cracked and a human body comes out, a beautiful girl with red hair. Quickly, the man takes the bamboo leaf container and heads into the jungle to fetch pure water. He keeps pouring the water into the girl's eyes and mouth. The next morning, the girl is lying under the hot sunburn. In order to protect her from the sun, the man brings vine branches from the jungle and constructs a shelter. Morning turns into noon, and noon into evening. The man is still sitting beside the girl, and quietly looking at the sea. It seems like this wait is never ending. Thus the darkness of the night descends, and suddenly, heavy rain begins. Amidst the rain and thunder, the man wakes up. He carefully watches to see if the girl is getting soaked in the rainwater. He then heads back into the jungle to fetch more vine branches. At that moment, a few drops of rain fall on the girl's body, and her consciousness returns. When the man returns from the forest with branches, he sees that the girl is not in the shelter. He runs over there and starts looking around for her. However, he cannot find the girl there. Then, he goes into the forest to search for her. The man comes to the edge of the pond. There, he sees the girl's footprints on the ground. He follows the footprints, starts searching for the girl, but by the end of the day, he fails. Despite searching all day, he couldn't find the girl anywhere. Filled with despair in his heart, he lies down on the beach. The next morning, when he wakes up, he sees the girl standing in the water far away. The man quickly goes towards her, but the girl, feeling ashamed, hides her body under the water. The man realizes that the girl is not wearing any clothes, so he takes off his shirt and places it on the ground, and gestures for the girl to take it. Then, the man went from there into the forest so the girl can put on the shirt. After waiting in the forest for a while, the man returns to the beach. However, he doesn't see the girl anywhere. She has disappeared again. He starts searching for her everywhere. In his search, he climbs up a hill and from there he spots the girl. She is dragging her shell towards the sea. Seeing this, the man quickly descends the hill and goes to the beach. By this time, the girl floats her shell in the sea. The man watches this from a distance. This time, he doesn't try to approach her. Instead, he looks at the raft he had made. He thinks about pushing the raft into the sea, but in the next moment, he stops. He seems to be thinking about something. After a long contemplation, he floats the raft into the sea and climbs onto it. The raft drifts towards an unknown destination, while the girl watching this from behind the trees in the forest. But suddenly, the man jumps into the water from the raft, and the raft continues drifting alone. The man starts swimming aimlessly in the sea. Shortly after, the girl swims to him. They are staring at each other without blinking. The girl is swimming, and the man is closely following her. The girl returns to the beach, and the man follows her there. The girl sits down and breaks open some oyster shells to eat, while the man sits in front of her. Before eating herself, the girl offers some to the man. As he takes it, He remembers how cruelly he had treated her, Means, with the red turtle. Overcome with shame, he starts crying. The girl comforts him. Then, she stands up and begins walking towards the forest. The man also follows her. They walk into the dense forest. As they walk, they travel a great distance. With each passing moment, they grow closer to each other. Eventually, the distance wall between them disappears. On this deserted island, they find love and begin a new life together. Days, months, and years pass in this way. Filling their lives with light, their only child is born. The little child always plays on the beach and stays close to his parents. His parents are making a new dress for him by drying fish skins. The child sees a glass bottle floating in the water a little way off. He picks up the bottle and shows it to his parents, then starts playing with it. The child's father walks by, and the child follows him. The father draws a picture of the three of them on the beach and explains to the child that this is their family. A little further away, he draws more pictures of tigers, bears, and people. He gestures his hand to showing his son and explaining that these exist across the sea, where there are many people like them. Meanwhile, his mother arrives and draws a picture of a turtle between the two sets of pictures and makes him understand that this is his friend, his mom. The child doesn't really understand much, but his parents try their best to teach him. They do this every day, and together, they gaze out towards the distant sea. At night, the mother was putting her child to sleep in her arms, and she was staring at the moon rising over the sea. The next day, they were collecting seaweed from the rocks to eat. The man was helping his wife, and the child was playing nearby. The child went to the edge of a large rock and saw a turtle in the water. Immediately, he started calling for his mother to show her the turtle. As he called, his foot slipped, and he fell into the water. Hearing his cries, his parents ran to the spot and saw their beloved child in the water. Since he is a father, so in order to save his child, he instinctively wanted to jump in, but his wife stopped him. We then see the child regaining consciousness underwater. Though his father is human, his mother is actually a turtle, so breathing underwater is not a problem for him. His mother gestures to him, showing him how to swim. The child follows her instructions and swims through the narrow passage of the cave to go out into the sea. There, he sees a turtle. Initially he gets scared, but in no time, he approaches the turtle and starts playing with it. The child's father jumps into the water and soon returns to the shore with his beloved child. More days passed in this manner. The child now helps his father with many tasks. Since he has no playmates on the island, he always stays close to his parents. He swims in the sea all day, roaming around with the turtles, considering them part of his family. Over time, the little boy has grown into a young man. One day, while his mother was collecting oysters, and he was helping her, they saw thousands of birds in the distant sky. They became very frightened, as they had never seen anything like this before. The young boy then went into the forest to fetch drinking water. The man is with his wife. Suddenly, the sea water started to recede. They couldn't understand what was happening. Then the woman noticed the distant sea that the water level had raised significantly, and a massive wave is coming towards them. The young boy, in a panic, began running towards the shore. On the flip side, the woman is pulling her husband's hand. He seems paralyzed with fear. A storm is raging around them. When the young man reaches the shore, the storm is nearly upon him. In moments, it hits their island with full force. The storm's fury begins to devastate the entire island. Water floods in from all sides, and it destroying everything. The young man struggles to stay afloat, but there is no sign of the storm letting up. The island is completely wrecked. Eventually, the storm subsides, and the young man slowly emerges from the wreckage. The island has been reduced to ruins. There are broken bamboo pieces scattered everywhere and an eerie silence surrounding the island. He searches frantically for his parents, and running here and there, but he cannot find them anywhere. He starts shouting, calling out for his mother and father, but there is no response. After searching for a long time, he finally finds his mom. Seeing her brings him a sense of relief. Then, he sets out to find his father. He searches the sea, swimming a great distance, but he cannot find him anywhere. As daylight fades and night falls, his father remains missing. The next morning arrives, and we see the man floating in the sea, clinging to a piece of bamboo. Suddenly, he hears his child's voice. Hearing this, the nearly lifeless man makes one last effort, but he has no strength left and begins to sink. As he began to sink into the deep sea, his son rescues him and brings him back to the shore, where his mother is waiting. Upon seeing her husband, she embraces him. The three of them return to the island and looking in their surroundings that the entire island had been reduced to ruins. They start to rebuild their lives anew. They gathered the trees scattered on the island in one place, and set them on fire. They have completely cleaned the island. One day, while the young boy was washing his hands and face in the lake, he sees that glass bottle. He takes the bottle with him back to the beach. He gazes intently at the distant sea. It seems something is happening in his mind. Basically, he is no longer a child. He has grown up. His mind is full of questions about what lies beyond the sea. On one side, he has his parents, and on the other, he has many unknown questions. He doesn't know what to do. His father is also slowly aging. His father also realizes that something is going on in his son's mind. One day, the man and his wife were sleeping, and at that moment, their child comes there, and they wake up. Then we come to know that their child wants to see the unknown world. Hearing this, his parents become frightened. Tears come to their eyes. They hold each other's hands because no parents in the world want to lose sight of their child. But it's a reality that when a child grows up, they must eventually let go, and also this story is no exception. The next day, the parents and their son are standing on the beach. The parents hug their child for the last time. The boy bids farewell to his parents, and enters the ocean, where 3 turtles are waiting for him. The boy looks back at his parents one last time, and then jumps into the water. He sets off for an unknown destination. The helpless parents gaze at the distant sea. They become very lonely after their child leaves. Their child was their only source of happiness. But when children grow up, parents cannot keep them from going their own way. Many years pass in this loneliness. The man has now aged, his beard and hair turned white. His wife's red hair has also turned white. This reminds us that youth is not permanent. One day, everyone must grow old. When this man first came to the island, he was a young man. Then he got married and had a child. Gradually, he has now become an old man. This is the life cycle of humans. One night, the old man and his wife were sleeping. The man is now very old. He was looking at the moon, which was peeking over the distant sea. After staring at the moon for a few moments, he closes his eyes. And we realize that the man has died. The old man's wife wakes up with a startled. She sits by her husband's dead body and cries. Eventually, she lies down next to her husband's dead body. She holds her husband's hand, and she turns into that turtle again. Then she slowly makes her way to the sea and eventually disappears into the depths of the ocean. And with this, the story ends here. This marks the end of the story, as well as the story of countless families. This story might seem fictional to you, but close your eyes for a moment and think, perhaps you could spend your entire life on a deserted island with your family members. But now imagine if these people were not in your life, could you be happy even in a palace worth millions? I left this question for you. Your family members are not permanent in your life, so love them even more while you have time. So friends, please let me know your thoughts on the video by commenting. I read every one of your comments. If the video truly touched your heart, don't forget to give it a like. Stay well, stay healthy. Goodbye for today. Thank you so much.